Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Kaiju, Killer Mermaids and a celebrity memoir. It's my weekly wrap-up. So it's been a good reading week for me this week. Hopefully it has for you too. I finished 7 things, albeit a couple of those things I'd started in a previous week. But yeah, it felt like a good reading week, and I've really enjoyed pretty much everything I've read. Not everything's been perfect, but there has been one absolute standout book, and everything has been decent. So I'll talk to you about what I've been reading in a minute. But first, a couple of things very quickly. So firstly, let's do a moustache check. So as you may know, I'm doing Movember. I've been very bad this week because it's been super busy at work. So I've been very bad at posting daily Movember videos. Not that I think anyone was particularly enjoying them anyway. But let's talk about my moustache in this video anyway. So I think it's coming on okay. So just over halfway through the month. I think I'm going to be quite pleased with this by the end of the month. We shall see what I decide to do after that, whether it's shave it off, grow the beard back, keep the moustache, who knows, we shall see. So yeah, quick update on that, and also on my Patreon. So I will be doing a video about this, which will probably go up this coming week, but I've made some changes to my Patreon, which basically mean all of the tiers get more stuff. The biggest change probably is that the cheapest tier, the $3 tier, you now get all the additional content I make. So like the daily videos I do, the Q&As I do. Also, I do all sorts of stuff for the Patreon channel. For the $3 tier, you now get all of that stuff. The stuff you get in the other tiers is slightly different, so like voting privileges and merch and things like that. But the $3 tier gets you all the additional content. So should you be interested in either sponsoring me for Movember, which would be very kind of you to raise money for mental health charities, or if you're interested in the Patreon, that little QR code that appears here at the beginning of my video before I run the kind of credits, if you scan that with your phone, if you're watching this on a TV or a laptop or something like that, it will take you to my link tree, which has links to all of the different places you can contact me or connect with me, including both my Patreon and my Movember page. So let me magic up that QR code again now. There we go. So scan that and you get all of my links. It's also linked in the description for all of my videos, and the QR code gets flashed up again at the end of the videos as well. So if you ever wonder how to connect with me in different places, Goodreads is on there as well. That's how to do it, the magic QR code. Right, let's talk about books then. So as I said, 7 books read this week. So the first of those, so I felt like I needed to get something like under my belt for the Read What You Own Challenge. So let's talk about the Read What You Own Challenge actually. So I've now read 10 books for the Read What You Own Challenge. And I think going into last weekend, I was feeling a bit like my reading hadn't gone that well the last few days. So I wanted to get something quick out of the way. So I reread a book that I first read when I was a kid. That book is Down with Skool by Geoffrey Willans, illustrated by Ronald Searle. So this is from a series of books about a schoolboy called Nigel Molesworth, which I think were originally published in the 50s or 60s. I read them as a kid. They're very, very funny. So basically they're written as if written by Molesworth, and it's just his thoughts on school, the people he goes to school with, and things like that. So I loved them as a kid. I really enjoyed reading that one again as an adult. I've got like the full collected Molesworth on my Kindle, so I may well read the next in the series at some point during the Read What You Own Challenge as well. So that was just a nice, light, entertaining read to get my reading mojo back on track again. So after that, I read another fantastic book. So this is probably my book of the week, I think. I love this. So this is Alien: The Cold Forge by Alex White. I'm going to do a video review of this, which will probably go up this week. So I won't talk too much about the plot and things like that. But this was just a really excellent sci-fi horror novel. So easy to dismiss things like this because they are, novel spin-offs from a movie series, and you might think that means they're, not as good as a truly original or completely original book might be. But this was fantastic. Really good characters, really good action. The villain in this is so detestable. It was a joy to read. So thoroughly enjoyed that. This I read for the novelisation November readathon, which Andrew from It Came From The Page is running for his patrons. So this is clearly a book based on a movie series, like a tie-in book. So that was fantastic. Also read, let's get the other physical book out of the way. So also read, again for novelisation November, this Godzilla and Godzilla Raids Again by Shigeru Kayama, translated by Geoffrey. So this is fantastic. It's just come out. It came out to commemorate the 70th anniversary, I think, of the first Godzilla movie. So this is a novelisation of the first two Godzilla movies, written by the guy who, I don't think he's single-handedly wrote the screenplay, but came up with a lot of the concepts and was heavily involved in the writing of the movies. So originally these were published, these two they're novellas really, short novels, were published in Japan in the 50s, and this is the first time, and they're still in print in Japan, this is the first time they've been translated into English. And Geoffrey has done a great job of the translation, and also provides a really interesting afterword at the end where he talks about the origins of the movies, the origins of the novel versions of the movies, what it was like to translate them, the impact of Godzilla on Japanese society at the time, things like that. So really, really interesting. But the two short novels are just, they're Godzilla novels. They're just really fun. Written, I think, for a younger audience. So you do get you do get some bits that definitely felt like they were written for kids, especially some of the action sequences, and there's lots of use of onomatopoeia and things like that, so Godzilla roaring and smashing stuff up, but also they are interesting, culturally interesting films, reflecting back on the impact of the of the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima on Japan. So that that kind of shadow of nuclear devastation and the impacts of radiation on on living things. Definitely very much part of these stories. So really, really enjoyed that. It was a great deal of fun. So other things this week then. So I also read for the Cryptid Readathon, which is taking place this month, which is run by Sin from Sin's Book Nook, Crystal from Fibre Artsy, and Jason from Jason's Weird Reads. So I read, how many things did I read for that? Just one thing for that, I think, which was Mermaid of Sicily by Jincey Lumpkin. So this is the second in the Billionaire Siren series. I read the first one, I think, for Garb August. That was The Mermaid of Venice. So these are just fun, just spicy fun. So about this mermaid called Gia, who takes human form for most of the books, but can make razor sharp gills come out of her arms, which she uses to kill people. So yeah, lots of sex, lots of intrigue. Very much follows on from the plot of the first book, which at the end has her lover murdered. So it's about his relatives trying to find out, who killed him, blaming Gia for it. Really, really interesting. So just a really fun read. And I've got a number more of the books in the series, so we'll continue reading that series. I'm really enjoying it. Also read then as a buddy read with one of my patrons, Ida, Phantom of the Opera by Gaston LeRoux, so the classic French horror novel. This was just really, really good fun. Much more fun than you would expect a translated classic to be. So the plot is reasonably familiar. I suspect everybody kind of knows the story of the Phantom of the Opera, but it was really entertaining and had an interesting insight. I don't know how realistic it was, but interesting insight into the French theatrical world. So that was quite fun, but just like the character of the Phantom of the Opera, who's referred to never as the Phantom in the book, he's referred to as the Opera Ghost. He was really interesting. The plot goes in all sorts of crazy directions, particularly towards the end. The last quarter or so was quite kind of pulpy and bonkers. So yeah, a very, very entertaining read. Really enjoyed that. Two more things then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, two more things. Sorry, that was super. That felt super unprepared, didn't it? I promise I had prepared for this video. So two more things I read then. So Pageboy by Elliot Page, his memoir, which was published this year. So really interesting. It was a little bit heavy going at times in that it was somewhat repetitive, and he tends to go on like massive kind of tangents. So there's a section really early on in the book that goes into great detail about the destruction of this ship in a harbour in Canada somewhere. I can't remember which city it was. Might have been Toronto. So this ship blowing up during the Second World War, I think it was, and the devastation that caused to the surrounding area, which was really interesting, but not what I was reading a celebrity memoir for. So interesting, interesting insight into like the world of Hollywood, particularly, acting as a young person and the, kind of exploitation of young people in Hollywood. So that was interesting. Really interesting stuff about his, realisation that he was trans and that kind of transitional period. So yeah, a very, very interesting book, but it skips about all over the place time-wise, which can make it a bit difficult to read at times. And it definitely, there's definitely repetition in there, like thematically, in terms of there's some things which he just goes over and over and over. And I get that, clearly it's a memoir is a personal thing and written probably as much for the author as for the audience. So yeah, it can be a bit heavy going at times, but ultimately definitely worth it, I think. And then finally read, so I finished this morning, Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. Again, a new book, so I published this year. I've only read one other book by Moreno-Garcia, which was Mexican Gothic, which I really enjoyed. This was really good too. So about a cursed film, and I love stuff about cursed films, and at its heart has a really nice couple of characters. So a woman, Montserrat, who's like a film editor in the movies, and a guy, Tristan, who's an actor in soap operas, who are like lifelong friends. So really, they just made a really engaging central like couple as they try to investigate what's going on with this cursed movie. I didn't enjoy the horror elements of the book as much as I expected to. It didn't go... It was definitely creepy and spooky at times, but it didn't go quite as far as I'd hoped it would. One of the things I liked about Mexican Gothic was, as it went on, it got kind of more and more crazy, whereas this did to an extent, but not as much. So didn't enjoy the horror elements hugely, but really, really enjoyed the central characters. I thought they were both excellently done. So yeah, do recommend it if you're a horror fan, and also just the atmosphere and the kind of detail and information about filmmaking in Mexico and things like that was really interesting as well. So yes, that's the 7 things I finished this week. Literally just finished Silver Nitrate before filming this, so I haven't picked anything else up. So I don't have anything on the go at the moment. So I don't know, what should I read next? Not sure. Looking at my pile of books beside me. I'm gonna pick something, not random, but I can't make up my mind now, so I will pick something after this video and start reading that. Right, in terms of channel stuff then, so the last week I did my full review of the manga series Blood on the Tracks. So that series is complete now, so I did a review of that. I really think it's an excellent series. I did my top 10 physical books that I'm intending to read during the Read What You Own challenge. I did a video on an update video on the Garbology anthology that I'll be publishing with Troy Traddap next year. And did a video as well comparing all of the currently available Kindle models that you can get from Amazon. In the week ahead, I'm behind in filming, so I'm normally quite prepared in terms of having stuff filmed. I am less prepared than I normally am. So I've got one thing definitely in the can, which is it's my monthly wrap up for August 2021. So the month before I started the channel, I've looked back on Goodreads and done a video talking about the books I read back then and just thinking about like how I feel about them now. I'll do a review of Cold Forge, as mentioned, and I'm also going to do a Read What You Own kind of check-in. So now that I've got to 10 books, just going to do a check-in about like how it's feeling, and then I may do a video on 2024 priorities as well. Not too sure about that. So various different ideas floating around in my head at the moment. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do, but I need to this weekend because I'll need to get them filmed. I need to get them all filmed this weekend. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. Hope you've had good reading weeks. Do let me know in the comments what you've been reading. Let me know if you've read any of the things I talked about. Remember to scan that magic QR code at the end of the video should you want to get all my links. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.